Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin Wei on Time Mark Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guaijian Philo-Cultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be discussing bullying behavior. Welcome back, Lin.
Hello, hello.
So you're going to tell us how to bully people today, I guess?
Pretty much. It's really simple, too.
Just call them names and slap them and whatnot, eh?
That's right. I mean, it's just so simple. Take your shoe and throw them over the head. Throws over somebody's head or something,
All right. Back to getting serious here. So bullying behavior, I guess this is something we hear a lot about today. It's sort of different than when I went to school. It wasn't really talked about much, but I know in the West over here, they're trying to make people more mindful of it. I don't know if it's the same in China or...
Well, in China, it's overlooked because nobody wants to take the responsibility of being an educator or a guidance or a guide to children. And also, people think it's a sign of being weak when you're getting bullied and you can't handle it. But then they don't realize that when you can't be handled, and nobody's going to take responsibility for it, not the school, not the teachers, not the parents. So people just don't even bother.
Yeah, and I suppose if they eliminated bullying in Asia, we would run out of kung fu plot lines for movies pretty quick. I couldn't resist.
Yeah. You'll kill my brother, right? Like, just goes into those things. No, I didn't. I said I would. You a bad guy. I'm going to kill you now. Jeez.
That's probably not the best way to deal with bullies, I guess, and that's funny because in a lot of those movies, right? What's the solution to the bullying? The local guy trains in kung fu and beats the living crap out of everybody, right?
With a chain whip at the end of the chain whip, an iron hook, You called me a dog. Wow, 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 forehead, We can't do that now.
No, they'll go into jail anyway.
Yeah.
So, I guess maybe you could recommend some better ways to deal with it.
Plastic chain whips with plastic hooks at the end. Swinging and screaming, that usually scares people. Excuse me.
We're going right off the rails with this one.
It is, but it's funny. We gotta have a joke once in a while, but bullying is just overlooked. And why is this even being talked about here? What does this have to do with cultivation? Well, it goes on two ends. On one end, it's the person receiving the bullying. If you want to go into the whole karmic thing about being overwhelmed by other people's energy, sure, we can do that, and it can be explained very quickly. If you have the conditions to have the people around you who will try to put you down and hurt you and whatever, and you react in such a, in an opposition way to it, well, you've let those people in. You've played right into the karma that you have created for yourself. If you let these people, not just let them, if they're around and whoever's doing whatever they do to you, and you really truly feel not bothered by it, even if they're coming around to hurt you or whatever, and you can protect yourself or whatever, and if you can't, and you run away or whatever, fine. But you just don't let it emotionally affect you, and don't let it shape your worldview and cause more thinking about, or more notions about the crappiness of the world or whatever, then you don't play into that karma, you don't get caught in that loop. And you don't create the situations in variations ever again in your future. It kind of just passes through. And people going through the problem now, they're like, no, that doesn't pass through. Are you crazy? It does pass through. It's just when you're in it, you can't really see a way out of it.
Yeah, and I guess the people that are doing it usually want to get some kind of reaction anyway. So, the more reaction you give them, and sometimes it's easier to say this than put it into practice. Mm-hmm. But, the more of a reaction you give them, the more it empowers their behavior, right?
Yes, it's an insatiable need for attention and temporary power. And it does build up one's ego when other people who like that kind of, well, in that sense, it would be humor, affecting, terrible humor affecting other people. Most people think that's kind of uh, down to earth and usual, so they find it attractive. And in that, that empowers the person partaking in the, imposition of other people, imposing their will on other people. And with that, they find a temporary state of empowerment.
Is there ever a point where if you're being bullied, it's okay to give someone a good knuckle sandwich?
uh, well, the bullying is not okay, and the knocking someone's head off is not okay. But if it comes down to physical, imposition, where basically person swinging their hands at you or grabbing you, not because I practice martial art, I say this, but generally push the person away, get out of there. I mean, if you on one hand know how to attack somebody, and then the person comes to attack you, and you give them a good knockout, at least you try to control yourself and not have to really hurt the person. But if they are relentless, and you know that it's not that you or him or her, if they're relentless in having to really, really, quote unquote, defeat you and put you down for their own sake of empowerment, don't stop until they cannot do that to you. You have to sometimes pull out the hand stick on people and give them a really good whacking. And that's not done for your empowerment. That's done to stop this person from doing it over and over and causing more problems for other people. So there's a sense of having to understand I don't raise my hands to someone because I know I can, and it's going to make me look better, or and more fearful to other people. So now you're just like the bully. You have to be so clear as a cultivator, because I'm talking from a cultivator's point of view, that if you're going to hurt somebody because they're hurting you, you're doing it because you don't want them to do this ever again. There's no delight. There is no I am doing this to this person and I am wonderful, and there is no delight in having knocked someone's face off at all. It has to be very clear on that, and it takes a lot of work to get past the ego in this specific sense.
And truth be told, I mean, I'd say probably 99% of any fight could be walked away from. I mean, it's very rare that you would actually, have to sit there and give someone a shot.
Unless you're in an environment where that's exactly how things are done in that area of society. Where you go, the environment usually, influences people, and the consciousness of certain places influence people. And if one is not clear on how they're being affected, they will be sucked right into the usual ways. The while in Rome, do as Romans, right? That kind of saying. So you gotta be careful. Watch
like a martial arts school, for instance. I mean, a lot of times their problems get solved with I don't want to say duels, not the good word, but
True.
A lot of times it comes down to a martial battle, right?
Well, in I would say old days, and I would say the old days being 40 years ago, nowadays people don't do that. They're a little iffy on it unless there is a total agreement upon the people. And I haven't seen stuff like that. I mean, you get people in martial arts who argue with each other, and they say, well, if you don't put up your hands, you'll never know, so why don't we just go at it? And then they just go at it, and it's just like a cat fight. It's ridiculous. And it's really just a big, let me see whose ego is bigger. It has nothing to do with the skill at that point. Because I get people here, I was like, oh, we should hang out and, exchange, do a little sparring, check each other out, And I'm very much welcome that. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. But if I see their attitude is just a little too I'm going to prove that I'm better than you, and you don't know anything. You're a white guy out here in China. I'm just going to be like, no big deal. Whatever. Yeah, you're better than me. I don't care. I don't need to prove to myself what I can do, or I don't need to prove to anybody else. I'd rather it be natural where if the person really just wants to take my head off, let them come and try. That to me, that's the best way to try your skill, not argue about it and hey, let's set up a fight and see who's better. No, you're looking at it. It's not something natural. When I say looking at it, means you are preparing for it. You are right there and you know what's happening. It's not like those spur of the moment situations where you really got to get your skill out there. No, it's like acting. It's useless.
Well, I guess most bullying is probably on a more verbal type level anyway, so maybe we should focus in on that a bit, right?
Well, especially for kids and kids in school, whether they're in kindergarten all up till high school, even college, people just getting abused. And it's more like insinuations when it comes to, well, I know this person better than they know themselves. Or if it's little children, it's not even that complex. It's more of, you're fat, or you're ugly, or your hair is too short, or, you have one eye that doesn't close all the way, or stupid things like that are just, like heartbreaking to a kid to hear. They don't know what to do with that. They're like, is that true? I never heard anything like this before. And my parents don't say anything like this before. I don't see anything like this on TV or books or anything. Oh, what the hell's going on here? Do I just believe it? They don't know if they should believe it because they don't think that it's something to have to contemplate, but it's constantly being thrown in their ears, in their face. And what do they do at that point? They don't know how to react to it. And they just cry, or they close up inside. Or they become crazy and just take out the person when they're walking home alone. I mean,
and
emotions go crazy.
And probably a lot of people carry some of this stuff, even unconsciously, right? For a lot of years.
Oh yeah. Because when you're getting picked on, it's more of, how do I not get picked on again? Do I close this aspect off? Do I not look at these friends? Do I stay away from these crowds of people? Or even, how do I trust just my even close friends who aren't even part of those other groups? What if they turn around and do the same thing? So you carry these types of tools throughout teenage years into the adult life, and then it becomes such a habitual thing for us to act in those ways that makes up the kind of personality we have, and we just do those things unconsciously. And
go ahead.
Unconsciously, and they become problems of in our personal relationships with our family and significant others, and nobody asks themselves, well, I was like this when I was a kid because of such things, but I haven't had those things in my life anymore, so why am I acting like this? Is that we carry the tools and arm ourselves when we don't even need to carry them, and we let the arming of ourselves influence the people around us so they don't do those things we had experienced from totally different people in the past.
On the part of the bullier, I guess, I mean, in some cases, it may not even be that their intent is to hurt the other person, right? I mean, children especially are just not as mindful as an adult, or as they should be about things. You know what I mean?
They're not mindful. Kids just pick on anything not so usual, not in their, scope of views of the world. I gave a lecture about this to my students, excuse me, last week, and some kids were crying, and one kid came up to me, hugged me at the end of the class, and was like, "Thank you. This is the smartest class I've ever attended in our school." You're like.
And then you said, "Get to the back of the class, dummy."
And I told her, "Look, you're fat." I'm kidding. But she hugged me and wiped her tears from her eyes, and she just said, "This was the most smartest class I've ever would have to take today. Thank you so much." And all the kids, the boys especially, were just looking around like, "Uh-oh, I do this." You see their eyes going from left to right, wondering if the people that they pick on is looking at them, are looking at them. And then you have girls who are, like wiping the tears from their eyes, boys who are putting their heads down. Some kids are taking, like sighing and just like, wow, this is unbelievable. I let them watch a video about it, and then we had a discussion about it. I said, if I see anybody doing this at all, then, you're going to have big problems with me. And that's going to be a problem because then I get everybody involved. I kind of throw everyone in the volcano and let it erupt instead of taking pieces of people, pieces, little bits and pieces here and there, and then try to fix it. I throw everyone in there and burn them.
Sounds like you threw them on a big guilt trip.
Pretty much. But kids, they don't know. They just look at the small differences in each other, and they label what they assume is acceptable. And basically, it would be the influence that they get from their parents or grandparents. I say grandparents because here in China, the grandparents usually watch the kids, and the grandparents usually don't discipline the children at all. And when the parents are around, they don't discipline them either much. Not everyone, but a great majority. And so they get influence from what's fashionable, what's commonly accepted as what the most prettiest thing to the most handsome thing, stuff like that. So they base their world on this is what it is, Like the other day I had a teenager kid, a kid, was he 14, comes to me and says, "Oh, you have the iPhone 4S. Well, I have the iPhone 6. I said, okay, and all the applications are so much better than your phone. I'm pretty awesome. I said, actually, no, you're kind of like nothing without your iPhone 6. And he just looked at me. And I said, actually, did you have to buy your iPhone? He said, yeah. I said, no, mine was a gift. So actually, if you want to really compare, get your napkins out. He goes, why? I said, because I'm going to tell you in comparison how awesome my life is that I can have people give me an iPhone 4 because they really, really believe what they're going to get is worth it. And you are nothing without your iPhone because your parents had to get it for you. You couldn't even get yourself $20 if you were to go find a job right now. He just looked at me and goes, oh my God. But I said it laughing. The whole tone was comedic, so he didn't take it to heart. He just looked at me and says, "Oh my God, I didn't think of that way." I said, "Yeah, well, you should think before you open your mouth, especially when you want to put yourself on a pedestal."
And then you stepped on his iPhone 6, right?
And then I bent it. I put it in my back pocket. It sat on it, and it bent. I'm kidding. So the kid just says, "Oh," I said, "Really? Yeah." He goes, okay, I get it. Cool. Sorry. Well, hey, cool. But seriously, it goes that far as to I have this and I have that. And kids don't know how to handle that. They're like, well, this is all I have. Am I not better? Am I not worth anything because I don't have a $400 pair of sneakers? Or I don't have the most fashionable jeans or shirt or whatever? That destroys them for a long time until they turn around and say, well, who gives a hell? Who cares? I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I know even when I was younger, like in junior high, the trends back then were, these $300 and $400 windbreaker jackets, and everybody had them, and my mother's like, do you want one of those? And I was like, no, not really. And even though people would look at me and kind of insinuate, well, you don't have one because you can't afford one. Even at the time, like, it didn't faze me because I knew that wasn't the reason why. The reason why was I didn't place that much value in a piece of plastic that, my parents have to work half a week for, right? But I mean, I couldn't explain that to people, and I tried, but it's like, it went right over their head, and it's more like, oh, you just can't afford it.
Yeah, it was just get a garbage bag and cut a hole on the top and put your head through it. Okay, I got my windbreaker. I think it was like 0.5 cents. And look, I put a logo on it. Look, I can write Adidas on it.
Yeah.
I can put any logo. Mine is awesome. Yeah, kids, when I was growing up, kids had stylish stuff, and then some didn't, some did, and most were picked on because of either how they looked or, how they were acting, or their background, like the kind of lifestyle they had if their parents were well off or not. And I mainly got picked on around my group of kids outside of school, probably because maybe because I was too white. In the
In New
sense
York,
of
right?
in New York, yeah. Probably because I didn't speak Spanish, but no one really cared too much. They like to just call me Cracker. Yeah, look at this Cracker. What is he doing? But then when it turned out that I could dance, or I wasn't afraid to stand my ground if people were to, pick on me or bother me, they really tried to just pick on me some more. At that point, it was more of let me, not that they were like so kind about it, but in retrospect, I see that they were really helping me to not become scared. I wasn't afraid, but they didn't. I was the youngest out of most of them, one of the youngest, so they kind of just pushed me around here and there to see if I would sustain or maintain my, sparky attitude to protect myself. And a lot of times I had to, and that was one thing. But the in-school crowd was the worst. It was just being called the devil and evil and 666 all the time because of me liking meditation or me liking what we call spiritual stuff. My eighth grade teacher used to say, introduce me to people who came by to see her. Oh, this is one of our kids in class. This is Eric, and he's into the occult. And I would scream out the top of my lungs, I'm not in a cult. What's wrong with you people? I've had enough of you people and your ignorance. I would scream at this in my class. She goes, Eric, it's not that you're in a cult. It's called the occult. The stuff you like is called the occult. I was like, but it's not a cult. Get the word cult out of there. Just say, oh, that's enough for me. What's wrong with you people? A cult. This is why people are bothering me every day. Do you understand that? Because you said this once. And now for the whole school year, people are calling me devil. Okay? And she just is like, what?
It's funny how times change, because now I don't know about totally right now, but for a while there with the goth culture and everything, like, that was the cool thing, right? I'm into the occult, I'm into the dark side.
Yeah, people thought it was the dark side. And I had people when I was in my teens, witchcraft people who thought they were witches, trying to have me teach them stuff, teach us how to do this, teach us that. I'm not teaching you spells, and I'm not teaching you anything you consider magic. I'm not going to teach you. You guys are crazy. They saw one movie and they start wearing black and black lipstick and black this and putting their hair in all weird shapes and sizes. I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Why are you wearing skirts and like flowing skirts that go down the block? And why are you wearing all like lipstick black and you're putting powder on your face to make you look pale? Like, what the hell is that? So I would get picked on from people who were trying to be cool out of a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
People try to do spells on me because I wouldn't teach them, and they're like, we're cooler, we're powerful, we're going to do a spell on you. Yeah, nice try, because they ended up getting really sick for about a week. Do a spell on me again.
Obviously, people, they're not, even if you wanted to teach them or had something to teach them, the mind state of those people wasn't at a stable enough place that you would want to.
No.
You wouldn't want to put a gun in a kid's hand, right?
No, you wouldn't. And then it was the normal crowds of kids. Our kids today now, bullying has gotten so advanced because now it's like, it's not just words. It's I'm going to yell at you and call your names. And then I'm not only going to do that, but I'm going to push you around. I'm going to throw you on the floor. I'm going to run you over with my bike. I'm going to stab you with my pen. I'm going to make a knife out of a cigarette filter and cut you up. People are really getting crazier. Man, this probably has been like this for years. I haven't been in school. How long? Oh, 15 years? Half of my life? I'm 34 now. Okay, but what I just hear and see is just a craziness. And why,
Well,
why
the modern thing now is the online bullying, right? In some respects it's even worse because a lot of it, they don't even have the courage to go up to their face and do it, right? They got to do it, hidden behind a computer and.
Yep. Yep, yep,
sort
yep.
of.
That's illegal out here in China. The cyberbullying. They've
I
really started attacking that.
I think it's somewhat illegal here too. I do have concerns about it because the powers that be, I think, are going to use that to crack down on other
Yeah.
forms of dissent that aren't really bullying. But
Why
it's
don't they just educate the kids properly? Why don't they
yeah,
just
yeah,
educate the people properly instead of more of this and more of that?
more
How about less of
laws.
that and less of this,
I agree 100%. Yeah.
It's not that they need laws, right? It's not about needing laws for this. It's about educating people to raise their consciousness so you don't need laws like that. So you can leave your doors unlocked and your windows open at night in the dead heat of summer like they used to when I was a kid.
And we
Like,
still do
actually, I can't
that.
believe I could say that.
We still do that in my area, Canada, for the most part.
Yeah. Well, New York. No, you don't want to do that. When I was growing up, 5, 6 years old, we would stay outside in the heat until like 1 o'clock in the morning in the summer vacation, and our doors would be open. Sometimes our parents would be sleeping, and the rest of our friends, our adult friends and kid friends, would be out in the street, and we were all hanging out. No one was worried. Why? Because there was a community, a feeling of community, a sense of respect for each other. That's gone, or it's going now, and our education is a direction of our focus is going in a way different direction, way different area. I mean, why are kids? The kids are jealous, or people are jealous. They're greedy, angry, ignorant. They want to chase their desires, and then they're taught that it's okay to do that. And why are they taught it's okay? Because it makes them feel good. That's not
Well,
good. I mean, look what it leads. It leads to parents, growing up down into their 60s, 70s, and just change. What's the word? Passing that style on, and then you got kids going into politics who are acting that way. I mean, come on. If
yeah,
it's not done first by by the people in power, then it's going to be done first by the people itself. And if the people in power do it, the people will do it. One
yeah.
reflects the other, one way or another.
I think a lot of it. I mean, it seems like a lot of things come back to this, but a lot of it, a lot of our attitudes are sort of shaped negatively again by the mass media, right?
Yeah, people assume they can believe what they see on TV, what they see on the news, what they hear. Oh, I got the best, I got the true story because this. And then the fashionable thing is that if you don't follow or believe what is being said in the mainstream media, then you are the worst person in the world. That's another sense of bullying. So now it goes from your friends, your family, your schoolmates, to now the people in society you don't even know, or even the media itself who don't even know you. The people in the media don't know you personally are calling you a moron because you don't believe what they think.
Yeah,
Come on,
that's true.
you
I
know?
mean, and myself, I have a lot of unorthodox views about a lot of things.
Man,
Yeah,
I was, I agree with you too. I have a lot of unorthodox too. I got to a point where someone puts a gun on the table and says, Eric, go shoot yourself. Lynn, go shoot yourself on the roof because nothing of what you say is ever going to happen. I said, are you kidding me? Well, then I better bust my butt and make sure I get it done so I can prove you wrong. And everybody else who is just like you.
why?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
It was
strange.
about being able to do what you can do, like to do what you love, make a living from it, raise a family from it, and ideals about society and where people could go in the future and their sense of consciousness. And it was like, no, that's not going to work. You might as well just save everybody the trouble now and just shoot yourself. Look at them. What's wrong with you? Jeez,
Yeah,
you know
it's
what? I'm
crazy.
doing it now. Okay, I can raise my family and do all the happy blah 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 stuff and make all the money I need to make to raise everybody by
I,
believing in what I do. I mean,
I,
come on.
I guess that's probably where things should start, right? Is in the family. I guess we should
Yeah,
first obviously try to be good examples to our children, and secondly, sort of try and correct their behavior when we see them going astray, right?
true, and correct our own behavior. Another thing is that if we make mistakes as parents, we can't be afraid to just admit to our kids that, yeah, I was wrong. Why did I do it? Because I really believe that was right. you know, and then I'm not right, or I was greedy because I didn't want you to do this because I wanted you to listen to what I was saying because I didn't really want to do everything else that comes along with you doing what you wanted to do. I mean, if we just are truthful with that, the kid will be like, oh, okay, maybe. But at least that they know that we're going to tell the truth. And we can still survive in the world doing that. We don't die once you tell the truth. It's not like your skin burns off and your bones crumble into dust when you tell the truth. It's not like in the movies. People are afraid. They break something. They're afraid to say, I did it.
Yeah, I think a lot of parents, for whatever reason, and maybe it's not just in relationship with children, but a more common thing, a lot of times they don't want to admit when they are wrong. I know, like myself, I've said things to my son or whatever, and then I've thought about what I said, and I kind of reflected on it, and I'll go back to him and say, well, I thought about it, and, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have done that. And I think that's a good example, because it teaches him that it's okay to be wrong. You know what I mean? It's okay to admit your mistakes. And it's also okay. It also gives him an example that, I don't just say things and, kind of walk away from them. If I say something, a lot of times, it'll affect me more than it affects him. And I do take the time to think about what I'm saying and see if it was a valid reaction.
That's important, and it's very important because when kids grow up and they have relationships, they're going to be that way with their significant others. And if you can't admit a mistake, it's going to be a problem. I mean, just admitting a mistake doesn't mean you lose anything. You gain when you admit that you're wrong. You gain the knowledge to change, and you gain the other person's trust, and you become more empowered. And you can say it's almost like a permanent empowerment. Because when I say permanent, I mean that it's longer lasting than the temporary, I'm right, go F yourself kind of empowerment. That's just too quick. Yeah. That goes away, burns too fast.
That obviously goes back to mindfulness. So I guess, mindfulness is sort of the cure-all for everything, right? I mean, if people were more mindful, we wouldn't be bullying at all, right?
Pretty much. I mean, if people just ask themselves, how do I see myself? And why do I see myself? If people just look back into how they created the things they assume is right in the world, like how do they create the views of what they assume is right in the world? I really look at that. No one is right about their views 100% because they're just expedients. Our views are just helping us get along. Go up and down the waves of our experience of things. We're not even touching the truth of what we supposedly experience as reality. We're not touching that. We're surrounded by our own views and our own senses. So how can we assume we know what's going on? People in the media and politics or even in our society or even in our homes point the finger at this one and that one. But who's to say that our pointing the finger is the truth on that person? Each person has a different experience of each other. So one person's enemy is another one's best friend. Each relationship is individual.
Well, throw a little curveball.
And it's collective.
I was going to throw a little curveball at you here, and I usually know how you're going to answer it, but some people could look at some of the stuff that the Chan masters did or the Zen masters, sort of the crazy wisdom stuff, and from an outside perspective, if you weren't familiar with what they were doing, you could look at that and sort of construe it as bullying, right?
Sure, you could see that as this guy just on some ego trip and wants to be this great person on the mountaintop who says, I know what's better for you, and that's his empowerment. And that's because there's ignorance. There's I don't really know what's going on in that whole scene of Chan people and Chan masters and sticks flying everywhere. So I'm going to assume that the people doing the hitting think they're better than everyone else. So why the hell do I want to even be part of that whole thing? Why do I want to sit in meditation if my head drops a little bit, get someone to tap me on the shoulder with a stick? Like he's the best person out of everyone. He can do everything else. But what happens is when that dialogue does happen, it's the ego. It's the inability to realize that the ego doesn't exist. We make it up. It's the inability to surrender. Because that whole scenario with Chan and the whole scenario with having a person there to just check you is not about his ego. It's more about you. It's about, oh, my head tilted. I almost fell asleep. If he didn't tap me on the shoulder, I wouldn't have awoken to enlightenment. I would have fallen asleep and dreamt something else. Okay, but he comes over with a stick. And then about 20 minutes later, it's his turn to sit and meditate. And it's your turn to go walking around the room with the stick. Has nothing to do with the person who's actually better than anyone else at what everyone's doing. It has to do with each person helping each other out to push along the way so they can maintain their focus and attain enlightenment.
Yeah, and a lot of these things are expedients, right? And they're designed to kind of pull these reactions out of you and make
Yes.
you more mindful. And again, it's
Yes.
like the Chan master, he's not taking egotistical pleasure out of screwing with you. He's screwing with you to help your own cultivation, right?
Pretty much, because if you throw like water on a meditator, a cultivator, and while he's meditating, and you think he's getting in deep state, and he thinks he's getting in deep state, and you throw a cup of cold water on them, and they go, you son of a bitch, you crazy bastard, blah, 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 blah. That's a wake up call for them. It says no, they don't got it, and they should go back to the drawing board and work harder. But if you throw cold water on them, there's not a reaction, not a slight twitch of the skin, not a slight change of the breathing, nothing. They're just in what they're doing. And when they're done, they're like nothing ever happened. It's because they were not associated in the sense of they were not attaching or identifying with their body. Okay, everything has changed. It's a cultivator. They're getting further ahead. So it's more of the reaction that people get. So if someone yells at you and says, you're a stupid moron, you think who you are, and blah, 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 and you're this and you're that, and they try to spread rumors and gossip about you, if you really feel pain in your heart and like these people are torturing you and hurting you and really trying to get over on you, and you really take it to heart where you're living the victim state out of it, you let them in. You are removed by them. You actually had those views in yourself in order to let those people affect you that way. So that's why mindfulness and cultivation is very, very good, very important in our world, because when other people do things and we react, our mindfulness allows us to understand why we're reacting, why is there a reaction in the first place, and how to change it.
So
after a while, you don't have the reaction anymore. You're not ignoring things either.
In terms of children, I guess, they're sort of more prone or more moved by these things than we are as adults in general. I mean, not in every case, obviously. And, it's easy to say to a child, be mindful or whatever, but
they have to practice it.
Yeah, so I guess that sort of leads into what I was going to say. What do we tell our children, or how do we recommend they handle these things?
Well, when people or other children start to affect our children, in terms of one kid bullying another, what do you tell the one getting bullied? Right? How do you make them feel better that the next day they got to go out and face it again? And sometimes it's physical. Well, let's say it's not physical yet. Let's take it easy first. The easy road. So it's just words being spread, rumors, gossip, blah, blah, blah. And you have to let that kid know. You have to let your kid know, hey, look, people will always say things about anyone. That's just the way people have conditioned themselves to be. It's not right, and it's not wrong. What you do with what they say about you determines how right they are and how wrong they are. So if you entertain, if you start shaping your world, if you start believing and feeling hurt, understand it's okay to feel hurt, but you are not that. It's they who have the problem. They are such things. Okay, and why are they continuously doing it? Well, you have to explain to them why are kids doing that. Because of these such and such things. They enjoy other people suffering. They enjoy covering up their own faults. Okay, and it's not good to entertain that. So when it goes into hitting, then it's a little different. So why are they always hitting me? Why are they always picking on me? I have two people always pushing me around, stealing my money. What am I going to do? I feel really scared. They're going to hurt me. They're going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. No, that's a different story. Now you got to get involved because kids can't do what adults do. They can't reason. They can't talk principle. Most adults can't talk principle either. They can't talk logic, and most adults can't talk logic either. So we can't expect them to be able to handle something they don't have the ability to, and most adults don't have the ability to.
Is
so
that
we
when we enroll
involved.
them in? That's when we enroll them in Wing Chun.
Please don't, because it may just build up their ego faster.
Then make them the monster they're trying to overcome.
Pretty much, because Wing Chun is one idea of Wing Chun is it's very direct. It goes straight for the kill. You know, oh, you moved, I hit you. I get out of the way or go home. That's one part. All martial arts have the same types of principles, all part of one big ball of martial art world. Some people, some aspects, or some styles of martial arts like to focus on a few things. They don't like to focus on the whole thing because it takes a lot of practice to focus on the whole thing. People want quick fix. Wing Chun is like a quick fix. Just gets to the point. The point is just fighting or striking, and that's not really the good point. So it's still just a small portion of the actual whole. And that's where it comes. We have to add in the right education. So for our kids, we got to add in the right education so they can get to the point. And the point in a more wholesome way instead of, he pushed me, so I threw his face into the floor and I stepped on his back, and now he can't walk for the rest of his life. Ha ha, yay me, and no bullies will bother me. That's probably true, but you destroyed a whole person's life, and that kid was just trying to screw you up emotionally. Yeah. Now you screwed him emotionally, physically, his whole life. He's tortured. You're worse than him.
Yeah, you brought a bazooka to a knife fight.
Pretty much. I mean, when you get kids to try to hurt other kids, it's best that kids can defend themselves. Yes. Defend themselves to a point where the other person refuses to lay a hand on them again. That's nice. That doesn't mean you beat the living hell out of the kid. It just means that you kind of let them realize in a nice way. If you can hurt them, you just control the person. Some people get frustrated and they just want to hurt and hurt and hurt. So for kids in bullying, it's really more of you got to educate the kids and it's not even the parents' fault sometimes. It's more of just society. I mean, parents can educate all they want and teachers can try their best, but really the mass information of society now is really, really a brainwasher, man.
Indeed.
So it is just teaching our kids to understand and reflect, self-reflection. Teach our kids meditation, please. Teach them meditation. Let them learn how to reflect within, to go inside, not to base their reality on what other people think of them. Yeah, they'll be lonely kids, but they'll be smart-ass kids. They'll be wise kids. And by the time they're in their 20s, they'll have all the friends they want.
And again, to teach them meditation, they don't necessarily have to sit there in a lotus position chanting Om or whatever, right?
They don't. They can sit in any position they want. It's more about how they can apply their mind to focusing on one thing. So everything else can slowly go on its own, go away on its own. You don't have to force thoughts to go away. You can't. It's impossible. But you let them go on their own. And when you teach kids to just sit in any posture, whether it's standing, it could be walking, it could be running, it could be lying down, it could be taking a shower or in the toilet bowl, either way, as long as they are attentive to what they're doing in that moment and they're applying their attention to what they're doing, one single idea, they'll be okay. And teach them how to investigate their mind. Teach them how to recognize their ups and downs of emotions and their thoughts. They'll be okay.
Should we end on that note?
Sure.
All right. Well, I don't really have any awesome quotes today. I've got one that's kind of almost the opposite of everything we've just talked about, so I'll go. Cool. I'll go with that. All right. So it says, everyone who wants to do good to the human race always ends in universal bullying.
Whoa. We should have started with that quote. That is awesome.
That's by Aldous Huxley. I guess that's sort of, I don't know. He's an interesting character.
Very, very.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Len.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening to Expedient Means at Lynn Way and Time Monk Radio. Please be sure to join us next week as we discuss being unplugged. Thank you.